I am an assistant principal at Parkville College, which is a school in custody, so for young people in custody. I'm in education because I get a lot of joy out of seeing young people enjoy their learning, believe in themselves, and also being hopeful about the future. I think also feeling like I can make a contribution to addressing systemic disadvantage in education is a really big part of my drive. Also, on a more specific level, I love solving problems and working with people to solve problems. I've always done quite generalist studies. So I did the IB in high school in my senior years. So I had a range of subjects. So studied French, history, theatre arts, and then obviously like maths, English, chemistry. I then did an arts degree and I majored in German, and then my minors were economics and Indigenous studies. German was really important to me because I grew up speaking German. So my family is German, but I found it really hard initially in Australia to sort of reconcile with that. I wanted to be a kid who was like everyone else, and my mum pushed through and tried to drill as much German into me as possible, and I'm super lucky to have had that foundation because it meant that I could come back in sort of my undergraduate degree and focus on that, and allowed me to connect with family, connect with who I was and my place in the world. But also more practically, it landed me a job. So my first job was teaching German and history. The benefit there of having a skill that was a desirable skill, because where there was a lack of supply in language teachers, specifically German teachers, I had quite a unique skill that landed me a job. I spent 3 months in between sort of my first year and a half of my arts degree in Cape York, working with the AFL in Indigenous communities. It made me feel like responsible to know more about the history of Australia. And as a result, I changed some of my subjects in the second half of my degree. And I became just super engaged in my lectures, my work, and I felt like it was connecting to things that I'd seen and experienced. And I think that's something that we're lucky is, having done an arts degree, that affords you the opportunity to connect with the things that are around you. And I benefit from that. It made the learning matter to me. Ability to critically analyse information and ideas, to communicate clearly and passionately, to contribute my thoughts but also be able to justify them, ability to listen effectively and develop empathy. There is an appreciation for different ideas, and so professionally I've never thought that I have all the answers, and that's a huge thing to take into my work, that there are people who have different ideas and think through problems differently, and that's valuable, really valuable when I'm either leading them or working with them. And I think that's come out of my humanities studies. I think a lot of us are searching for this, and it's given me that. It's sort of having a stronger sense of who I am in the world that I live in and my place in it. Learning a lot about my sort of complicated and quite interesting backgrounds. My mum is German, my dad is Jewish. I know that sounds like a punchline, but that is, it's sort of been something that I've learnt a lot about. A big part of that is through understanding history and the history of this country, the history of migration to Australia, the history of the places that a lot of our migrants come from, and the real challenges that have existed in the world for a long period of time, but also are continuing to face us today. Look, I imagine this is still to be the case, and I guess I can see this in the young people that I work with as well, and certainly think about from my own experience. The decisions that a lot of people are making, there definitely seems to be an underlying urgency and a tendency to rush and know exactly where you need to go and get there as quickly as you can. And I get that there are a lot of things behind that, and there are a lot of real pressures that influence that. But I think I've certainly benefited from having the time and the space and the enjoyment in just learning for the sake of it, and developing transferable skills that I know will be useful in the world, regardless of how I choose to apply them in the version of myself that emerges in 5-10 years' time. Obviously thinking about strengths, but also thinking about what do you love to do, what gives you joy, because having a love of learning is a really valuable thing to be taking into wherever you go.